This video is to illustrate the steps to take when creating flights and you want to keep players in their own flights, and there are unequal number of players in flights, meaning that if you had a group size of 4, for example, and you want to keep players in their own flight and there's an odd number of players in the flight, and the flight breaks don't work correctly. So in this example, we have calculated handicaps and sorted the event by adjusted handicaps, and we've created 3 flights. And if we now assign T's and times, so auto assign T's and times, and we'll keep them in foursomes. If we look at the flight breaks, now that we've created foursomes and reassigned T's, if we look at the break between flights 1 and 2, we've got a 5 down in flight 2 that really needs to go to flight 1, so we just changed it to flight 1. But that puts 1 player in flight 1 and 3 players in flight 2 in the same group. And so the steps to correct this are to insert a group where we can then make, in this case, 3 threesomes at the end of flight 1 in order to keep all the players in their same flight. So we'll take the option to add a start T at a time, and we want a group to be inserted right after T3, so we can, in this case, add 3B. If you needed to add CTs or DTs, you just hit the plus key to add whichever T's that you need to get them inserted in the right place, to get the blank positions inserted in the right place. So we've got positions now inserted right after T3. So we've got a 3B, and we just now need to get this player that's in flight 1 up into the 3B assignments. So we can drag this player up to 3B, and then you've got to move the blank position back down into the T that you dragged the player from, so that it stays a foursome. And this blank row now is flight 2, so you need to change the flight number. So we've got 1 player in the new T. We need to make this group a threesome, so you drag the player down and drag the blank row up to keep foursomes, and do the same thing with the next player. Drag the player down and then drag the blank row back up. So we've got a threesome now that's on the 3BT that's created, and we need to make a threesome out of on the 3AT, so we'll pull a player down from T2 to insert them into the 3A and drag a position up, so that we've now got a threesome on 2, a threesome on 3A, and a threesome on 3B, and we have a threesome on 4 in the first group of flight 2. But we've now got all the players assigned to T's, and we have them in their same group. The easiest way to rearrange the players to get the blank spots in the last position is just to use a cross grid, or I can just move this player over to clear that position, and we can move this player over to make these groups last positions blank. Back to the player grid. And we've now got all the groups the way that we want, so that there's a nice break between flight 1 and 2, and threesomes created in order to deal with the unequal number of players in the flights. And if we don't want a 3A and a B, now that we've got them assigned the way that we need them in terms of the groups and the order of the groups, we can just go in and add T10, drop 3B, and it'll reassign the T's using T10 instead of 3B. So that's the procedure for a shotgun start. When you have a time start in the same situation where you want clean flight breaks, and in this case this Herman Alexander is a 7 and we want him up in flight 1, so we've changed the flight number, but now we've got flight 1 and 2 paired together at the 8:30 time. So we need to insert a time at 8:30. But time starts are a bit different because you can't insert a time where there's already a time. So what we need to do is add a time at the end of the events. We need to add a 9:30 time. So if we go to add T's and times and add a time at 9:30 and finish. Then we just need to move the groups down so that the blank positions are in at the 8:30 time instead of the 9:30 time. So we take the 9:30 time, new time we've got, and drag it down to 9:20, which moves those players down to the 9:30 time. Drop the 9:20 on the 9:10, moves those players to 9:20. Drop the 9:10 on 9 o'clock, moves those players down. And just keep following the same steps, just dropping each group down until you get the time where you need it to be at 8:30. So we need to move one more group down. So we've now got the positions at 8:30. And that will allow us to move the player from the 8:40 group up to 8:30 in order to create a threesome there. So we drag the player up, drag the time down to keeping groups in foursomes. And now we want to move a player from the 8:20 time down to the 8:30 time and blank position up and drag the third player down so we have a threesome at 8:30. Drag the blank position up, and then we've got to move a player down from 8:10 and move a blank position up to the 8:10 time. It didn't drop where I want it to be, but that's all right. So we've got a threesome at 8:10, a threesome at 8:20, and a threesome at 8:30. And in flight 2, the first group is a threesome. And again, we can go back to the grid to move players around as we need to have the third position. The fourth position be the blank position, just so you get the pairing set up the way, however you want the pairing set up for each group. So we've now got 3 threesomes at the end of flight 1 and a clean break so that all players are playing paired within their flights. And we just need to get the cart numbers reassigned. We'll just go to players and renumber the carts and get those cart numbers set up correctly for cart reports. And if you need to move players the other way, it works the same way. So here's create a case where We've got two 13s that were put into the same flights, but we've got one of them that's up at the 9 o'clock tee time, and that player needs to move down to 9:10. So we follow the same steps where we add a tier at a time, and we'll add the 9:40 time, which and then we move the players down again. So move the 9:30 down to 9:40. And as mentioned, when you add a group, it's always adding it to flight 1. So we just need to change these positions that we've now got where we want them to flight 3. And then we can move the last player at 9 o'clock down, move the blank time up. Oops, I didn't move it down. And the blank position up. Fix the flight assignment of the blank position. And then we can move players up from the 9:20 time to make a threesome. Oops. So I've now got a threesome at 9:10, and move one player up from the 9:30 time. Move the blank position back down. So we've got threesome at 9 o'clock, threesome at 9:10, a threesome at 9:20, one at 9:30, and last group is a foursome. And again, using the cross grid, we can reposition players as needed. And the event's now set up, keeping all players within their same flights.